might not know what a boundary even is. But let's just start by thinking about, okay, what don't you want going forward? What are we ready to let go of? And that could be, I don't know, lack of self-worth, lack of confidence, all of those things. But okay, so we're going to let those things go then. We're going to push those things out through that boundary.
Hey, it's Cheryl, and welcome to Secrets of a Survivor podcast, where I'm sharing my story, my challenges, and my learnings along the way, both business and personal. Basically, all the things. If I can do it, then so can you. So I'm here to help you on your way and be the person I wished I'd had. So let's get started with today's episode. Hello and welcome to today's episode, where I am joined by a good friend of mine, Steph Grainger. Steph is a therapeutic mentor, and there is so many things I could ask Steph to join me to talk about. But what I really wanted to talk about today was boundaries. So first of all, Steph,
hello.
Hi. Could you just introduce yourself to the listeners so they know who you are?
Absolutely. So my name is Steph Grainger, therapeutic mentor, and I support women to pretty much peel back all the layers that life has imposed on them and help them kind of move forward, living a much more authentic life that is aligned to how they want to live their life, not how somebody else has determined how they should live their life.
Cool. And you do some amazing work. So yeah, as I mentioned earlier, I wanted to chat about boundaries, and I think this was a really good topic to cover because, as I mentioned earlier when we were chatting, I think boundaries are something that as survivors we have lost the ability to have because we're controlled and everything. So knowing what our boundaries are and then enforcing them are probably two really hard things for us to do. So can we start off just by, what is your definition of a boundary or boundaries?
I would say, for me personally, my boundary is my safe zone. It's my protective bubble that goes all the way around me. And it keeps me safe, but it also helps me move forwards in the directions that I want to do, because there's no influence from anybody else within your boundaries. So other people can, it's not like... My bubble of protection is completely see-through, so I can see everything and I can absorb everything I want to absorb as well. But what happens is I can also stop anything coming through that I don't want to come through. So I've fine-tuned my boundary for quite a long time, and it's via really difficult things that I've experienced that I've learnt in hindsight how a boundary would have been useful to me in those situations. And it's through experiencing that and the difficult uncomfortableness that comes from that situation that I'm able to then go, okay, so how can I protect myself going forwards from this impact happening to me again? So I would visualise my boundary as a protective bubble all the way around me. Does that make sense?
That makes total sense. And I actually love that definition. I love it. I know you're a really visual person, and I think I am to a degree, but when you say it like that, it just makes so much more sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a protective shield, and it's also so flexible that you can bring in what you need as well. So when I walk my clients through boundary setting, we kind of open the boundary and we bring in any resources they need. We let go of anything they no longer need, and then we close the boundary. And I take them through that as a visualization, so they can really remind themselves of so many great resources that they already have that maybe they've forgotten about or they haven't been able to access, but also let go of the things that are holding them back as well. And we kind of create that gap in the boundary, let it go through their breath, and then we seal it, and we really seal it strong and maybe rebuild it, restore it, or just give it a little bit of TLC so that it's really in its tip-top condition so they can move forward in their life.
That's so cool. And I know a lot of people struggle with boundaries, both setting them and sticking to them. I know for a long time I didn't know what my boundaries were, where that line stood for me. And it took me a really long time to actually, and I'm still learning now to be fair, but it took me a really long time to get those first boundaries in place and what I wanted for my life. So if somebody was like, right, I've come out of this situation now and it's now time. I need to set myself some boundaries, but I don't really know where to start. I don't know what I want. How would you, or what would you say to them to help them just get going and thinking about that?
I mean, I would get them first to tell me what they think a boundary is, so that they can get it clear in their head, and I can understand how they see a boundary as well, because some people will see it very differently to how I do, and they won't be able to visualize in the same way that I can. So I get an understanding of what it means to them, because for some people it's simply a colour that's around them, or a shape or a symbol or something, or it's everybody's completely different. Then we would look at, well, what don't you want more of? You might not know what you do want more of. You might not know what a boundary even is. But let's just start by thinking about, okay, what don't you want going forward? What are we ready to let go of? And that could be, I don't know, lack of self-worth, lack of confidence, all of those things. But okay, so we're going to let those things go then, and we're going to push those things out through that boundary. Then let's think about, okay, so the opposite to that is where you'd like more confidence. You'd like to like yourself a little bit more. You would like more self-compassion, more self-worth. So I will then get them to visualize times that they did feel that. And it may take me a little while to go off and find that data in their unconscious mind, but it will be in there. It's just been lost under a pile of stuff. And then we gather those resources and we bring them back in. And again, I'll do that either through them visualizing themselves being more confident, or somebody that they aspire to be, and we bring that quality in through the boundary. Behaviors how they feel when they're confident, we'll bring the feeling in. I'll make it as relatable to them as I can do, so that they can actually see that they have these resources within them. They've just been lost for a while. That's all. And, any of the work that I do with women in whatever capacity that life has shown them, they have all of this stuff. It's just buried. It's lost. It's, as I say, it's under a pile of coats, because it's just life has this ability to sometimes reprioritize the way we see ourselves. And particularly for women that have come from really difficult situations that are listening to your podcast, they're going to have been told a whole different story as well. And through repetition, they're going to believe that too, because, repetition, a belief is just something said to you over a period of time, so much so that it becomes a belief. It's not fact. Yeah. So if, none of us are really born with any fears. We learn them, we're told them, we're shown them, and we're taught them. So showing that, that wasn't your belief to hold on to. Someone else passed that on to you. We can undo that by repetitive action, by you striving and seeking out opportunities all the time, and reminding yourself that there was a time you were confident, there was a time you loved yourself, there was a time you looked in the mirror and was grateful for what you saw. And it's just reminding her constantly, she's still there. She's still there. We just got to access her.
Definitely, and bring out all those qualities again, and show them to the world again. Basically,
absolutely. It's just bringing it back to life and just reminding her. And all of these things are in the unconscious mind. It's like a giant storage facility, and it really only uses the things that are kind of priority at that moment. And if you've been in a situation where survival is priority, all of the other things have just kind of been passed on somewhere else. We just access them and bring them back to the priority pile.
Yeah. Oh, that's really interesting. I've never looked at it that way before. But yeah, I love how every time I have a conversation with you, I learn something new anyway. I love it. So obviously we've talked there about what boundaries you want and everything. Mm-hmm. The one thing that I've struggled with is I have more or less, I know what I want now. It took me a long time to know that. And I did focus more on what I didn't want first and everything. My issue now, I think, is more sticking to my boundaries. And I think it's part of me is the fact that I want to please people. I want to make people happy. And again, it's all part of that thing of I want to be liked. And so I know it's my own issues, and I know that, and I'm working on it. But it's so easy to go back. So how how would you suggest somebody practices sticking with their, I guess that's it, I might answer my own question there, but how do you stick with your boundaries and not let them be broken?
I mean, when you said it's about pleasing people, most, in my experience, the women that I've worked with that have experienced trauma in their life, however that trauma looks to them, they'll be much more open to making others happy as a priority as opposed to themselves. So imposing boundaries is one of the most uncomfortable things that they will have to do, because that potentially opens them up to somebody saying, I don't like you, I don't like what you're doing, it's not fair, and as when I begin working with a lady and we start working on her boundaries, I do say to her, there's a chance that people around you are going to be a little bit uncomfortable with this, because actually what's going to happen is you're going to say no, or I don't want to do that, or I'm not comfortable with that anymore, and you're changing the goalposts for what people know you for. Other people aren't always comfortable when boundaries are asserted. However, they get comfortable, and they will get comfortable if you hold them firm. And that's the trick in all of this. That's the absolute key element here, is to stand firm and just stay in the discomfort, knowing that it's going to get better, rather than seek solace back in your comfort zone and going back to doing what you've always done, because that feels safe and comfortable. So it's important that you hold really firm at this point and just remind yourself, I know this is uncomfortable, but I am safe, and this is the right course of action for me in my life right now. But any new belief that we're forming takes repetition. The metaphor I use with my clients is, if you can imagine you're in a big field in nature, and there will be a pathway that's been created through people just repeatedly walking on the grass. So it's not an official pathway that's been put there, but it's been created by people constantly walking over the grass. So what you have is grass, and then a big pathway, which is just mud. And that's how our beliefs are formed, because we continuously walk over that and follow that belief, and it takes the grass away and creates that pathway. When we're asking our unconscious to follow a new belief, what we're asking to do is walk on the grass. And it's not familiar, we don't know it, it's brand new, and it feels really uncomfortable. So we want to go back to the pathway again. And we keep getting dragged back because that's what we know, and that's what's familiar, and that's what feels safe. But the more we walk on the fresh grass, the more a new pathway begins to be formed. And the old pathway, the grass grows back. So that clears that path, that belief system out. So we have to keep going back to the fresh grass. Even though everything's saying get back on the path, we know that path. That path is familiar. We have to keep going. But the new path is the right way for me, and it is a safe path. And I'm creating this pathway, and it's where I want to go, and it's the direction I want to live in. The more you do it, the easier it becomes, but it is repetition. And if you're carving out really strong boundaries after coming out of a very difficult situation, I would strongly advise you to get support as well, to stay on that pathway as well, because that support will keep you accountable, and it will keep you safe, and you'll have somebody to support you as you walk that new pathway as well.
Yeah, no, that's so powerful. It really is. I even had a light bulb moment myself there. It's like he was literally talking about my life, which I think many people will probably feel the same as they hear this.
I mean, when I first learned all of this all those years ago, it was just, wow, I can actually create my own path. This is, and something, and you still have the noise of your parent or somebody that was in a position of influence in your life saying, that's not how we do it. That's not how you should be doing it. But slowly the voice turns to yours, just through kindness and compassion with yourself, and just you saying, it's okay. It's okay for us to do this. We're not hurting anybody. It's okay.
Yeah. And I guess also reminding ourselves that if that boundary is not serving us or it's not quite right, we can change it. We have the power to change it, can't we?
We just change it again, and we just go inward and we decide what we want, what now needs to go, because we don't need that anymore. We open it up, let it out, and breathe in what we want and shut the boundary.
Yeah. I guess it's about testing things and trying it out, isn't it? Until we find what actually works best for us.
It's that there's no such thing as failure, just feedback. And it is constantly trying and going, okay, that didn't work for me. What would work? it's much easier for us to identify what we don't want rather than what we do want. As women, we are socially conditioned to not really want and not have desires and everything else. So actually, it's easier for us to go, yeah, but I don't want that. Okay, so what's the opposite to that?
Yeah, definitely. And I think one thing that I was taught a couple of years back, actually, and it was a huge light bulb moment for me then, is like when you are trying things and you're not necessarily making a decision that, right, this is my boundary, this is what I want, and this is it forever. Mm-hmm. You're just doing an experiment. Yeah. And if it doesn't work, you can try it. And it's really weird how just that little change of phrase of how I've told myself it now. And every time I try and change something, right, well, I'm not deciding this is it forever. I'm just trying it. It's just an experiment to see how we get on.
Yeah.
And it's so powerful because it takes that fear factor away a little bit, doesn't it?
But it does, and that's why I use the phrase just for today a lot, because I live by that mantra of just for today I'm going to try this out. I don't need to worry about what I'm doing tomorrow. I'm just going to do it for today. And that takes the pressure and the overwhelm away as well from any decision making.
No, I love it. Oh, thank you so much, Steph. I've really enjoyed this session, and I can't believe how much I've learned already. And I thought I knew a lot about things, but clearly I don't. And just want to point out that Steph has got an amazing podcast, which is called Just for Today, and you do delve into so many different topics, and I found it really helpful. And I think every time I listen to it, I learn something new as well, and it really helps me. So I definitely recommend looking that up. And do you want to share other ways people can contact you if they'd like to reach out and have that support with boundaries and the many other things that you can help with?
Absolutely. So you can access me on my website, which is stephgrainger.co.uk. I mostly hang out on Instagram. I am Steph Grainger, so you can find me there. I have a free WhatsApp community for women as well. But if you pop over to my Instagram, you'll find a link for that on there as well.
Oh. Cool, thank you. And I'll pop all the links in the show notes as well.
Absolutely.
And obviously, if anyone ever wants an introduction to Steph as well, please reach out, and I'm very happy to introduce you. Thank you so much, Steph. I really enjoyed having you. I'm sure there's many other topics, so I'm sure this won't be your first appearance on the podcast.
Cheryl, anytime.
Thank you. So I just wanted to quickly share something with you. My husband, James, and I are going to be running the London Marathon next year as part of Team Refuge. It's something that has been on both of our bucket lists for years, and to be part of Team Refuge and raise money for such an incredible charity is just an honour. So for those of you who don't know, Refuge provides specialist services to survivors of domestic abuse, and they also run the free phone 24-hour National Domestic Abuse Helpline, which I've got in the show notes below the details of. So if you are able to support us in any way, so either by donating or sharing our Just Giving page or just telling people about it, really, we would be so grateful. I've included the link to our Just Giving page in the show notes. Thank you so much in advance for your support. It really does mean the world to us. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I hope you've enjoyed it and found it helpful. If you'd like more help and support, check out the show notes for links to my website, socials and YouTube channel. Please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and don't forget to share and tag on your social posts. And if you wouldn't mind leaving a review, I'd be really grateful. Thank you so much again. I just want to leave you with this thought. You are strong, you are capable, you are lovable, and you are brave. But most importantly, you are enough. You've got this.